Yes, this is the pose you meant. I know. Let's do it. This is going to be probably the hardest one of the evening, but it's a great one to finish on. There's our timer. Let's go, and obviously we really want to leave enough room for ourselves over this side of the page. Okay, shoulder's going to be about there. Upper torso. Actually, it's more just like that. Now, okay, manubrium, clavicle coming up, shoulders there, this arm coming across here. Look at the way the elbow is almost at the edge of the form there, coming up something like that. Now the only reason I really want to get that in at this point is because look at where the calf is. Calf is starting about here. Yeah, what a crazy pose. And then this foot is essentially as big as her upper torso. We'll just get a sense for that there. I probably didn't need to come quite as far over this way as I have, but my instinct was telling me I would need it. Okay, so, and we know that this is really almost aggressively foreshortened. So let's just suppose that her shoulder is here. Look at how close that heel is. The heel is about there. And then from there, come up this way to above this line. And that's where her little toe is. And then we come out further for the toes. It's a whole different way of thinking. Okay, so we got the mass of the foot in there. The heel, the arch, sitting about there. And then her toes. Sitting there. Madness. Okay. So this leg it's about here. Something like that. Clavicle coming up this way. And that arm is going up there. Something like that. The head will be approximately here. foot as large as water, hard to sell. Yeah, but look at it. Really is. That's great, Helen. I'm glad that you're smiling. That's a good thing. Okay. That leg is going to be about there. Now, if we look at where this knee, like once again, what's the overall negative shape telling me here? This knee is sitting about here, right? And then just as a very, very basic shape, because that's all we can do right now. It's one step at a time. We'll start with our basic shapes. That leg is doing that. The ankle is sitting around here. Actually, maybe a little higher. And this foot is coming out this way. Okay, let's actually think about this for a minute. The anatomy. Because yeah, this the sitting on glass thing is distorting the form, so I really want to try and think of it in correct terms, if at all possible. Gee, this leg's over this way. Something like that. Okay, so I've got something's off here. But I think this is all roughly right, but I haven't enough volume down here. In fact, I haven't given myself enough of an angle here. That kind of resolves it. I was just not being quite generous enough with my lower torso. About there. Okay, I can live with that. Cool. Okay. So, deltoid. Clavicle, the center line is about there actually. Deltoid is sitting there. Tricep. Forearm. Bicep. Okay, so here is about here. about there, I think. Okay. Baldrick asks, perhaps you've mentioned this earlier, is line of action something you ever start with your drawings with? Many books I've seen seem to be mentioning the importance of drawing that, and I don't get the importance of them, to be honest. Yes, absolutely. Line of action is very, very important, and the reason I don't talk about it is because I kind of discuss it in different terms. When I'm talking about finding the large idea of something, that's essentially what the line of action is. You know, sometimes I'll talk about there's extension on one side and then there's compression on the other. You could say that that extension, or you know, that extension follows from one side of the rib cage through to the supporting leg, that type of thing. This is all essentially line of action. I don't use that term very often, even though it's a term that I come from animation, obviously, and it's a term that's thrown around in animation all the time. We are using those types of principles. I'm looking for line of action all the time, and I do discuss it. I just don't use that word, if that makes sense. But we are thinking in those terms, and in fact, Baldrick, I'll try and make a point of mentioning it more, or when I'm using a different terminology for it, I'll try and be more mindful to mention this line of action thing, because it is a concept that gets talked about obviously an awful lot, and it's a very important concept. Yeah, I tend to just think of it in slightly different terms, let's say. Not even think of it in different terms, I guess I just talk about it in different terms. Okay. So, we got the calf sitting in there. The heel is there. Do something like that. Okay. Elon, thank you. I'm glad to hear it. That's great. Really glad to hear it's helping. That's nice. It's always nice to hear. So, we're not going to get into all the toes here, I don't think, because it could just become too much. We will suggest them. So we got this, what's almost like this, yeah, the pads of the feet sitting in there, right? And then we got some anatomy kind of we need to be mindful of in here. But once again, you know, you could very easily turn this into a 2-hour drawing if you really want to start explaining all the different anatomical ideas. I think that's probably a session for another day. Helen, let's talk about that in the next session, okay? Because this pose is not really going to help us understand that, to be honest with you. But remind me, if I don't think of it, will you remind me in the next session on Saturday to talk about it? Because I think that's easier. but you could say, like, you know, just even here, this is the line of action of this foot, right? It's doing that type of thing. That's essentially what the line of action is for that particular idea, right? But I will talk about it in more depth. I just said we're a little late in the proceedings right now to get into a whole... and I'd like to find a pose where I can demonstrate it in a very, very clear way, so there's no ambiguity about what it is that I'm saying. This has been quite the session. Not happy with this shape. More like that. And for those of you who want to continue on beyond this pose, the poses that we didn't use, I would normally remove from the website just to keep things clean. I'll leave them up for the next day or two, and then I'll probably take them down. So if you do want to continue practicing with them, you'll have a day or so with them. But you never know, there might be poses there that we'll want to keep for a future session, so I will take them down in a couple of days. How about this? I'll leave them up till I put up this session, the poses for Saturday. Oh, I need to pop in her ribcage there. All right, I think I'm getting close here. All right, I think that this is kind of at a point where if I go too much further, I'm kind of going into a whole nother stage of drawing, and there's really not the time to take this through another stage. I think this is probably as good a point as any to call it a day. Wow. Oh, Mila, you're too kind. Thank you so much again. You're very, very generous. Guys, what can I say? That's that was quite the session, huh?